Okay, everyone, we're going to get the webinar going. It is 10 a.m. So, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. My name is Paul Green with OmniPrint International, home of the FreeJet direct-to-garment printers. And today we're going to be doing a webinar, and it's going to be based on it should be a help for guys that already have printers that bought them this year. If you're looking to purchase a printer, this is going to be a really good webinar for you because we have some really great information. We're going to be joined with Craig Colling from Paramount Financial, and he's going to have some really, really good information for you guys to understand about Section 179 and financing. And then, so let me move here into letting you guys know what we're going to be going over. So, kind of first of all, my name is Paul Green. I'm with OmniPrint International, and I've been in this industry for, 14 years, right around there, and just in direct-to-garment. So I've been around kind of since day one of direct-to-garment, and kind of consider me sort of a direct-to-garment dictionary. And if you guys ever need any help or understanding, I'll give you guys my email at the end, and you can feel free to contact me at any point if any questions about direct-to-garment printing. And we're going to be joined with Craig, and I'll have him introduce himself in a second here. So what we're going to go over today is Craig will be going over understanding Section 179 and the financing process, and then we'll have some questions and answers. So you guys should have a field where you can type in questions. So while Craig's doing his presentation, if you would like to type in any questions and answers that you have, and also if it's regarding the printer side of things, feel free to start putting them in. And at the end of the webinar, I will start answering questions, anything you guys want to know, really, if you have any direct-to-garment questions once I'm kind of done. So we'll have 2 questions and answers, and one will be the financial one when Craig's done, and then I'll do the one that's more printer-related. And I'm sure he'll be able to get back to you if we missed anything on the financial side as far as questions. So we're going to be going over understanding 179, financial process, finance Q&A, keys, things to look at before purchasing, understanding cost of operation, which is a huge thing for you guys to look at, especially when you're buying a printer. And even if you own a printer, it's something that you really need to get a grasp of to make sure you're going to be making the most amount of profit, but also understanding where you could be losing money. And then we'll go into printer Q&A. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Craig. And let me move this slide here. So, everybody, this is Craig Colling with Paramount Financial, and if you want to take it away, Craig.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Craig Colling. I'm the Vice President of Sales of Paramount Financial. As this slide quickly visually shows, we've been in operation since 2000. And I won't spend too much time talking about Paramount. That's not the purpose of this webinar, but I'll share a little bit of background about us. We're a direct lender, so we finance new and used equipment throughout the U.S. I've actually been with the company since 2001, and I run our sales division. In terms of the types of equipment we finance, we've worked with OmniPrint for many years. We do a lot of financing for direct-to-garment printers, but finance all other types of equipment as well. In terms of rates, terms, process, I won't spend too much time on that, but being that we're a private equity lender, similar to banks, we control our cost of funds. We're not brokering leases and loans to different banks, so we offer rates starting as low as 5.9%, and we offer typically 2 to 5 year financing terms with a fast approval process, usually within 24 hours. So that's just a little background of the services we offer. And again, the focus of this presentation is about one of the benefits of whether you finance through us or pay cash for your printer or pay credit card. So this is not a financing presentation, but I wanted to at least give you a summary of who we are and what we do in our relationship with OmniPrint. So let's talk about Section 179. I know for most of us, including myself, if you're not a CPA or an accountant, your eyes may gloss over when someone wants to talk about tax law. But this one actually should excite you or motivate you to be interested, because it saves you real dollars in terms of your acquisition. So again, whether you are acquiring a printer from OmniPrint, and whether you're paying by check, credit card, or financing through a group like ours, Paramount, you get the same tax benefit. When you file your taxes for 2017, assuming you purchase a piece of equipment before January 1st, you'll take the Section 179 tax deduction. What does that mean in plain English? Uncle Sam, our U.S. government, allows you to write off the full asset value in the first fiscal year. So instead of having to depreciate the asset over 5 to 7 years, which was historically how assets have been depreciated, you get to take the deduction the first year, so 2017. As this slide summarizes, you actually can get a deduction up to $500,000, which is pretty incredible. Again, it's our government's trying to motivate all of us as business owners to acquire assets, which helps grow the economy, which helps you and I as well, in terms of generating revenue for our businesses. There is a cap, which it's listed in this slide here. Maximum could be $2 million. Most businesses we're working with are typically only acquiring somewhere between $50,000 to $500,000 in equipment a year, so that cap really doesn't come into play unless you're a very large privately held company or publicly traded company. But there is an actual cap, and I think it's appropriate to at least comment on that. And then there is the bonus depreciation as well. So in brevity, there is an additional, if you do take Section 179, you do not take any additional depreciation. And I do see a question, which I'll quickly, and I'll address questions as they come. And if it's not for me, if it's for equipment related, then I'll wait until my presentation's over, and then I'll defer to OmniPrint. So the first question was related to typical cost of a complete package. We'd be financing total cost of equipment. So that question from Mr. Salas, I appreciate the question. I'll defer to the OmniPrint team on that question after we quickly go through Section 179 and tax benefits. So I'm just moving on to the next slide here, or attempting to. My system's okay. So this next slide kind of summarizes a lot of the same information, but I'll quickly cover it verbally and then share some more details. So all businesses that purchase, finance, or lease equipment for up to or less than $2 million can take that Section 179 tax benefit, which the next slide will show how that works mathematically for you. When we say tangible assets, it's actually incredible what qualifies. So a printer qualifies, but really anything you acquire for a business, the chair you're sitting in, the desk, the computer you're looking at, the sign on your building, the direct-to-garment printer you acquire to grow your business in terms of printing more shirts. Really anything tangible of that nature is considered capital equipment and can be deducted, and you can take advantage of that Section 179 deduction. And again, why does the government give us this benefit? Our government's motivating you and I, all business owners, to acquire assets, which helps grow the economy, and hopefully your pocket as well. This next slide talks about, in plain English, instead of just me glossing over some definitions, how it really works. So in this example, we're using a $20,000 printer. It shows that in the first year, in this example, just uses a 35% tax bracket. I realize we're not all in the 35% tax bracket, but if you were, you would get literally a $7,000 tax savings off that $20,000 printer. So literally, the printer would cost you $13,000 as opposed to $20,000 in terms of the actual asset value because of that deduction. Pretty amazing in terms of that discount. Now, again, if you're financing, you still take the deduction, although obviously you're making payments and you're paying interest on those payments. And I do see Arthur's note. I'm sorry, Arthur, I'm breaking up. I'm speaking clearly into my phone, so I'm not sure what the problem is. So doing my best on this. So But yeah, so that, again, this example is a plain English, plain speak example of the deduction, and that's real dollars. You really are saving in that $20,000 example if you purchase, finance, or purchase credit card, cash, check, or finance a printer before January 1st. You will save $7,000 on a $20,000 printer. So that's just want to share that news. And then lastly, my contact details here. So I'll ask OmniPrint if they want to email out my information to the webinar guest today. I can answer any questions further about Section 179. Also, any questions related to financing, whether it's related to interest rates in the marketplace, terms available, our process here at Paramount. We're not the only lender, obviously, you can work with, but I'm happy to work essentially as a consultant and help you and answer questions and support you any way I can and support OmniPrint. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to answer questions, whether it's through this text message system on the screen. Otherwise, you're welcome to reach out to me by phone or email listed here. So I thank you for your time, and I'll pass it back to OmniPrint at this time.
Thanks a lot, Craig. That was really good information. Really quickly, just I kind of hear people's questions a lot when they're asking about financing, and ideally once our sales guys have worked with the customer and they've got an invoice together, what's generally the turnaround time you're looking on financing?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. That's related to process, which I think is very important for anyone considering financing to take, especially when you're trying to make a December 31st deadline of acquiring your equipment for the benefit of the tax savings. So I'll quickly answer your question. It's a great question. So once a customer applies for credit, which we have a simple one-page credit application, which anyone on the OmniPrint team can share with their customer. We have an online, web-based version. We also have a hard copy for those that want to just fill it out and fax or email it in. Once we receive that credit application, we approve our OmniPrint customers within 24 hours. We commit to that time frame. Usually it's same day. It's not usually 24 hours, but that's the longest it would take. And then once the client's approved, we present terms via phone call and then followed by email. And if a client accepts terms, assuming the rates are viewed as competitive and they want to move forward, we can generate documents and get their file processed with OmniPrint within another day, 1 to 2 business days. So what that means in plain English is that a customer could literally apply for credit on December 30th, day and a half before the end of the year, and I could approve them, document them, and get at minimum a purchase order out to OmniPrint so you get your tax write-off for 2017. So we would, especially at year end, we're very sensitive to clients' needs, and that I made the mistake about 5 years ago to take a vacation between Christmas and New Year's, and I don't do that anymore. I take a vacation after New Year's because our clients need us 24/7 that last week of the year to, we're a lot of us are wired the same way. I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm criticizing myself. I'll wait till the last minute to do something that I really need to do, and you need companies like OmniPrint and Paramount by your side to help you acquire that printer and get the financing. So we will move that quickly at year end, any time of the year, but even more sensitive at year end to help you clients get your equipment and get your write-off for the year. So
great. And then one last thing, are there any things that you would say that are good to have on hand kind of prior to when you're working with financing? And I kind of long time ago worked within the mortgage industry, and I know that it helps to maybe have any certain documents or anything on hand which will help speed the process, or any tips you can give them, or anything that they might need to have on hand just to help the process move quickly. Yeah,
that's an excellent question, and that way you're setting the right expectation with potential clients. If the company is established over 2 years in business, this may sound like an embellishment, but it's not. We literally just need the one-page credit application. We will not need to trouble the customer or the borrower for bank statements, tax returns. Literally, it's an application-only process for companies that are over 2 years in business. If the business venture is less than 2 years in business, it's viewed as a new company, which that's not a bad word to Paramount. We're one of the few lenders out there that approve new businesses every day. It's over 50% of our clientele are less than 2 years in business. So if you happen to be a new business, don't feel as though you're excluded from this, from the opportunity to finance equipment with Paramount. But there are some additional items we'll need. Usually we'll need to see a copy for a new business. If you're less than 2 years in operation, you should gather when you apply for credit with us, and we'll share this with you on an email as well, but a copy of your most current business license. And then if you're leasing a property, if you're moving into a building, we'll need to most likely look at your copy of your signed landlord lease agreement, so we know where you're going, we know where the equipment's going. So, but other than the business license and the landlord lease, no other information will be needed. We're not going to ask you for bank statements, tax returns. We only ask for those additional financial items, tax returns and bank statements, when we're financing over $100,000, which typically, direct-to-garment printers are, now depending on the bells and whistles, it could be more expensive, but typically they're less. The typical price points are in the, say, $25,000 to $35,000 range. And again, I'm just using round numbers. Don't hold me to that. So my point is less than $100,000. So therefore, we wouldn't need to trouble your clients for financial statements or bank statements when they apply for credit.
Okay, that's really good information. That's really, really good to know. And I know that's kind of some of the common things that we hear, and it's really good to know that, in a lot of cases, people that haven't been in business for more than 2 years are it's a little bit harder to find financing, and that's really great that you guys offer that. Okay.
Well, hey, and we appreciate you including us, and happy to answer any questions like this. This is we take pride in helping OmniPrint's clients, so thank you for those questions.
Well, thanks, Craig. So I'm just gonna, if we have any more questions that come up, I'll address them to you. Same thing. And then if you guys have questions kind of moving forward, if you want to type them in, we'll have a Q&A at the end as far as printer stuff goes. We did have the question come in about a total package cost from Kent. Kent, we'll be able to go over that. I can have one of our sales guys put together. I don't want to quote you. I'm an R&D guy here, so I wouldn't want to misquote any pricing. But they can put together and kind of get an idea of what you need, because there's so many variables as far as the package that you can get. So it could be the printer. We have a few variables when it comes to the printer, and then heat press, and if you want a conveyor dryer, there's just a lot of things in there. But we'll definitely take care of you, Kent, and get you a good idea of how that goes. So, okay, let me move on here. Okay, so right here, the key things to look for before purchasing a direct-to-garment printer. So for you guys that are out there looking, there are a few things that you really, really, really need to pay attention to. And I'm going to say this isn't really in order of what's most important, but I would say number one is, does it fit your business model? And do you have what's your business plan? You need to really have a good idea of what you're going to be doing when you get the printer, who you're going to be selling to, who your clients are, are you going to be doing web-based things, what you're going to be doing. It's it sounds silly, of course, you have some sort of a business idea in mind, but it does happen. And not a lot of the time, but sometimes people will buy a printer and they are overwhelmed instantly. So you want to just make sure you have a really, really good idea of what you're going to be doing and who you're going to be selling to, and get a nice a grasp of what that is before you kind of get into it, because sometimes people don't. And I just want to bring that up because direct-to-garment printers are pretty awesome, and the first time you see them, you're going to be pretty impressed and see what an easy way it is to get into owning your own business, and how what minimal requirements it takes for you to become a t-shirt printer. So just make sure that you're thinking and you've got a good idea of where you're going to be going with this. Now, a few other really key things. Warranty. So sort of an industry standard in some cases is a year on the printer and 90 days on the print head. That's pretty standard. In a lot of cases, it's less than that. There may be no warranty on the print head and maybe a year on the printer or less. So with our printer, what I would like to let everybody know, because we offer 2 years on the printer and a year on the print head. So, and it's sort of depending on the package you buy, but generally that's our warranty. So, and a year on the print head, which is huge. Nobody else is really going to go a year on the print head. And we do that because we have the wet capping system on our printer, which is, it does such a good job of protecting the print head and protecting the printer when you're not using it, giving you really extended periods of downtime, which you don't really necessarily want to have because you want to be printing and making money. But it's nice to have that security blanket of knowing that when you're not using the printer, it's not costing you money and it's taken care of. So the next time you use it, you don't have any problems or you're not wasting a bunch of ink to get the machine going. So understanding what the warranty is. So with ours, you have basically, depending on the printer you buy, but generally it's a 2-year warranty. And you're not, a lot of cases it's less, so you're not going into a year and then having to maybe spend $2,000 or more to update your warranty after 1 year. So you find out what the warranty is, obviously, and what it entails. Really huge thing with direct-to-garment printers is the training. Now, it is a very easy process, but it does have a learning curve to it. And that learning curve is going to be relevant upon how well you're trained. And if you're just sort of given the bare minimums, your learning curve is going to be really big. And you're going to be probably asking lots of questions and trying to get extra help from people. And it's going to make it a lot harder. So training is massive. That's something you want to find out about and really get into the bottom of what is really entailed with that. Here at OmniPrint, training and customer education is basically our number one thing. We really want to make sure that our customers are comfortable. So you have a full day of training on the printer. For some reason, we actually record the training so you can refer back to it. We have lots of educational material that you can refer back to. We really want to make sure that you are feeling comfortable with the printer and you're moving forward and you're going to be making money. And so, we want to make sure that you're trained properly. And there's nothing more important than feeling comfortable with what you're doing. And that's also goes along with tech support. You want to really find out what's going on with the support. If you need help, how much involvement is there? Because when you're learning, every now and then you'll probably have a few questions, but generally with our printer, once you've kind of gone through training, you probably have about a month of a few little things here and there, and then you're probably going to be good to go. But you have to have a good, tech support team behind you. And like I said, we're all about training and education and about support. So we have a big crew here, guys, and they're even checking their emails at night and taking texts from customers, and we're here for you. And that's really important thing is we kind of consider our customers and as a team. We want you to be successful, because without you, then we won't be successful. So it's definitely a team here. This one here, so the next one, doing your research is humongous. And it's something that I bring up all the time when I see people that are getting into direct-to-garment. And by doing your research, I'm talking about getting an idea of what, the things I just mentioned, one, is key. But also just kind of doing your research on the companies and hearing what other people that have the same equipment have to say. There are a lot of good places out there to go and do your research. There's t-shirt forums. There's also the direct-to-garment owners group on Facebook. That one is really good. There's something like 5,000 or more users on that. And you get a lot of really good information there. But, do your research. ask those people, make sure they have the machine. You know, of course, in forums, you've got sort of there are people in there that probably don't even have a machine that are answering questions, which probably shouldn't be, but I think that's kind of how the world goes with forums. But do your research, find out what people are saying about their printer, how they feel, how their support is. I know we have a really good reputation, and we really stand behind everything that we do here. So we want you to research, because pretty much I pretty much guarantee you're going to come back to us or find us if you're doing that research. So do that research, just so once you buy the printer, you're making the right decision. Jumping just into something right away, and especially if it's based on a dollar value, can be a big mistake. And that's what I'm going to go here in the 6 is pricing, which is going to lead me into sort of the next section. But pricing, there can be a pretty vast difference in pricing on a printer. And what I'm going to show you is that in some cases, just because you pay more from the printer doesn't mean the one that you paid less for is end up going to cost you a lot more money to just actually operate. So really quickly, let me double check. I did have a few questions that came in. How will training work if we are in Hawaii? Should we fly out to you? And who would set up the printer for us? So, Tom, in Hawaii, I'm sure pretty much everybody here will be probably trying to find an excuse to come train you, especially a lot of us serve here, so that would be a great reason to come out there. But we do a majority of our training is done via Skype, or actually through this software that we have right here. So we do a one-on-one training with you. We want to be able to see what you're doing, and also so you can see us. And that way we found works really, really well. But there are options. It would be worked into the package if you wanted somebody to actually come out and do the setup. But it's pretty much not. It's not necessary really for somebody to actually come out there and do it, because it isn't that hard, and our training is set up so well, and we found that the Skype does work really, really well. And if you wanted to come here, that's great too. You coming here is awesome, because we can really, really spend that time with you, and you get to meet everybody and become part of the family a little bit more. So that's another option too, for sure, Tom. Then really quickly, does OmniPrint have any kind of private group set up for your owners to collaborate? We have our OmniPrint International Facebook page, and then I'm going to probably be working on putting together our own group of just OmniPrint users. But generally, a lot of our users are in that direct-to-garment owners group. A lot of our users. But yeah, we are working on that, and we do actually, we have our Facebook page where a lot of our users go to. Okay, so let me move on here. All right, so this is such a huge, huge thing, and I've gone over it before in other webinars, but I wanted to bring it up again in this webinar, just because it's such an important thing to understand, and it's understanding the cost of operating a printer. So it's not really relevant to how much you paid for the printer. It's once you purchase the printer, what's it costing you? What's it costing you to be sitting there in your building? What's it costing you to use it? And so we ended up, essentially, there are two, when you go to a trade show, what I've seen over the last 14 years of being at trade shows is a lot of times people are set in a certain mindset of what's the price of the printer and what's the cost of the print. And other than that, they're not really involved in asking too many other questions. And there's some really important things that you need to think about beyond how much the printer costs and what the price of the print is. And I'm going to tell you why the price of the print isn't important, because the graphics that are used I can create a graphic and use a lot of negative space on it. Let's say it's going on a black shirt, so I make sure there's a lot of black in the image. So when it prints, there's actually a lot of empty space in there. So I can make a big print, but I can make it come out really cheap. So I can go, oh, look at this huge print. It only cost $1, but it's not really relevant because there's so many variables when it comes to graphics. So you can't really give an average on prints. I mean, you're going to get pretty close, sort of a basic kind of idea, but I wouldn't go off of some pre-formatted graphic that's being printed out as show by some companies because they're designed to be cheap. So it's not really relevant to what the cost of the print is and what the cost of the ink is. So what I'm going to do right now is kind of show you guys an analysis of what we had. So we actually had somebody come to us, and they were running an Epson, and they wanted to know what would be the difference between running the Epson versus your guys' printer. And so first we wanted to make sure we got every bit of information from them as far as, how much the ink costs, what they were paying for the ink, how many cleans were involved, what parts need to be replaced, all those different things which add up, and what the cycle of the printer is. Does it stay on? Does it do automatic cleans by itself? There's tons and tons and tons of variables that you need to understand. So I also wanted to kind of bring this up too, because right now it's sort of relevant to, not to put anything down or say anything's bad. The Epson's a really great printer, very easy to use, but it's sort of expensive. And the brother just came out with a new printer too, which looks pretty awesome. It prints really quickly, but it's really expensive to actually run. And we've seen a few posts where people are, they've gotten the printer and they're like, wow, this thing's awesome, but it's kind of expensive and I'm not really seeing any return on my investment. And unless I'm printing over 100 shirts a day, I don't think I'm going to really be seeing too much of that. So let me kind of get into this so you guys will get a kind of a better grasp on what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's start kind of here with the Epson printer and what the customer had. So what we did was we took the same image and we had them print it, 750 prints per month is what they were doing. It was the same image. So we did, let's say, 750 on the Epson, 750 on our printer. Exactly the same job, exactly the same thing over 1 year. And they're doing 750 prints a month of the same image, okay? So with the Epson printer, the cost per liter is $345. Now, because it's a cartridge system, where ours is a bottle system, so with a cartridge system, you always end up with some ink left in that cartridge. And the amount of ink that actually ends up left in that cartridge was about $17.25 worth of ink on average. The actual cost per liter then is $362.25 because you're not actually getting, the full volume. You're losing some ink. Cost per milliliter is 36 cents. So, it's kind of, when you print, you count things in milliliters. The ink cost to print that graphic that they were printing was $5.75 in ink. And it was a pretty big image. It has a lot of white in it, which kind of pushed it up. It's kind of a big square image. So it was kind of pushing the boundaries of your higher price range. But with the printer, it costs $5.75. Now, with the Epson printer, and with a lot of printers, it does automated cleans during production. And it does a pretty heavy clean. And this is sort of at random. So you have no control over this. It's going to do it. And what they figured out over the months of production, that was costing them $391.23 for this printer to do automated cleans. So essentially, you have no control over that. And When it feels like it needs to do a clean, it does a clean, regardless. I think it's based on an hourly rate, an hourly. I think it's like every 8 hours or something like that. But it does a clean, and there's nothing you can do about it. So even when you're not using the printer, sometimes it's going to do cleans. So that's something to understand. These are questions that you need to ask before you buy the printer. Okay, how does it work? How does it maintain? Does it do cleans by itself? Does it automate? Do I do the cleans? What's the cost per liter of ink? Not what's the cost of the print, but per liter, how much is that my ink cost? Now, in here at that time, there was a monthly flush required. They do have a newer system where you don't have to do the monthly flush, but they still will want you to flush the printer out at least a few times a year. And I know the Brother does have a different system where it does sort of flush quite a bit of white out during a daily process. But monthly was required to do a flush of the white ink lines, and that costs $120. It also has a lot of consumable parts. So every now and then you got to replace the wiper, and you got to replace the sort of a system which spins around, which has a cloth type material on it, which cleans the print head. That needs to be replaced, sort of like a cartridge. And then there's filters and all these little things which are designed to only work for so long, and then you have to replace them. The printer's going to say, "Oh, you can't print because you got to replace this," and then you got to, a lot of them you can do yourself. But generally, that's sort of built into the printer. So 750 prints of the same design per month. The production cost to do this over 1 year was $57,915.08 to do this job. 750 prints per month. That's what it costs to do that. And the next year it'd be $2,000 more, basically, because it's only a 1 year warranty. And these are, once I said, these are numbers which are given to us through a person that was looking to do an analysis, and these are from them. So let's kind of move to our printer to give you an idea. Oops. Okay. So with our printer, the cost per liter is $145. So you can see there is a huge difference there right away. Estimated waste ink and cartridge is 0 because we have a bulk ink system, which is bottles. So as they start to get empty, you fill them back up. So you're not losing ink that's just sitting in cartridges. And I know from people that have cartridge-based systems, at a certain point it becomes frustrating when you have a zillion empty cartridges laying around, but they're not empty. There's still ink in there, and you got 20 of them. You basically have enough to probably make a full new set of cartridges just from the ones that are sitting there with ink in them that you can't use. So our actual cost per liter is $145. So it's not, you're not losing any ink. Cost per milliliter, 15 cents. So it's a lot lower. Our cost when we printed that graphic, and this is really, like I said, it's really stretching the boundary of as expensive as it could possibly be in a maximum, and it was $2.30 for us to print it. Automated cleans during production is 0. Our printer, you do cleans when you need to do a clean, and that is huge. So our printer, when you're not using it, it's not doing automated cleans to pump ink through the system. It's, when you're not using it, you're wet capping it. So it's just sitting there and the print head soaking in solution and being protected. And it's not relying on the system to pump ink through it to keep the print head going. So that is where those pennies start adding up. So our printer doesn't do that. So there's no automated cleans that you're paying extra money for, which are going to really, really add up over the years. Monthly required flush. We don't have one. Generally, the only time you'd want to flush the printer would be if you were, going on vacation for a long time, or you just something was going on where you couldn't print. Basically, if the printer is going to be sitting idle for a really long period of time, then we would want you to flush it out. But there's no sort of monthly flush required with our printer. Consumable parts, we really don't have consumable parts which are designed to wear out. There are some consumable parts which, over time there will be things that are going to wear out after a year or two, but generally there's nothing that's designed into the printer to wear out. So my analogy for this is when you think about, let's say, your bigger companies that make desktop printers, and then your companies like us that we just make a direct-to-garment printer and that's all we do. We don't have that desktop printer mentality where if you've ever, and I know everybody's done this, you've gone to, like, let's say Best Buy or something and saw this printer that had a really awesome, wow, that's a great printer and it's like next to nothing in price. I'm going to buy one. So you buy this printer for like $40 and it's great, but you print like 20 documents and it's out of ink. And then you go to buy ink and you're like, oh my God, the ink's like $60. It's more than I paid for the printer. That's where they get you. And so their whole deal is, they're always constantly making money off you. If you have to make it just so the machine can sit in and operate, you're paying. So that's a huge thing. So kind of think about those things and ask those questions when you're looking at printers. That's something you really need to understand so you can, you're not thinking about these things a lot of the times when you're pricing. So you need to make sure that when you're pricing, you're understanding that you have all these other costs involved, which are dipping into your profits. So with our printer, the production cost over a year was $10,696.50. So, and it's a 2-year warranty, so you wouldn't have to pay for an extended warranty that next year. So as you can see, there is a pretty huge difference within this. And you're looking at, what was it, $42,000, right around there. So that's huge. That's basically buying like 2 FreeJet printers just to own that the Epson printer. So it's just such a huge cost, and it's something you don't think about. So you got to think about that cost of operation. So what I'm going to do now, let me double check and see here if you guys have any questions. So here we go. Savings, $47,218 over 1 year. So that's a massive difference. So 2 printers side by side, both doing the same exact thing, but if you're running the Epson printer, it will cost you $47,000 more. So that's something to think about, Okay, so really quickly, if you guys have, let's see here, double checking. So Frank, had the question about the GTX versus the 330TX. I really don't want to say anything bad about that printer. Brother, printers they're good. They're really good printers. It's just, they're just so expensive to operate. And the same kind of goes for Epson. And if you kind of watch what happened with Epson, they come out at a certain price, and then they just start dumping the price of the printer pretty quickly, because the price of the printer doesn't really matter. It's the fact that they've got you on the hook for thousands and thousands of dollars in ink and consumable parts. So that's the biggest factor to think about. And I've seen it posted, and I've seen, you really have to make those printers make sense. You need to be at the 100 shirts or more a day. You really need to be cranking out shirts to where it's starting to make sense. So, but basically, but the amount of money that's involved there, you could have 2 of our printers and it'd still be cheaper and getting the same amount of production. So it just really depends. But realistically, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen through all the time I've been in this industry, and that's that thing where you're sort of taken away by this new printer and how fast it is and how great it is, and you're not thinking about the actual operation aspect of it, and then it kicks you in the butt. And that happened when Epson came out. Everybody bought them. It was the best thing since sliced bread, and within not even a year, they just started showing up all over the place. People trying to dump them, people trying to get rid of them, and that's just something I really hate to see. We are here to help people, and we want to grow with you and be a team, and it's not about that just getting a printer and then, whatever. We're a part of your growth, and we want to be with you, and hopefully, you buy another printer down the road. So let's take a look here. Is the pre-treatment process the same as with the Epson, as with the brother, Troy? Yeah, essentially, with all direct-to-garment printers, the process is the same. When it comes down to how you do it, everybody sort of has their way that they think's the best way to do it as far as the application process. But we go through that in training, and we go off of what we've been doing for the last, 12, 13 years that we know works. So when we train people, we'll show, we're going to show you what we know works. And if you want to try other things, that's fine. But we want to make sure that you've got a good starting point and something that works properly. And that way, if things start going wrong, we can say, okay, did you do it like we showed you? And then, then I started to try this. Well, that kind of helps us figure things out if you sort of step out of the realm of what, way we like to show you how to do things. But yeah, generally with all direct-to-garment printers, it's the exact same process. The only difference would be when you get up into that, $100,000 printers where you have the Cornete and it's printing, it's actually pre-treating the garment and then printing on it all at once. It's a wet-on-wet process. But other than that, every direct-to-garment printer is basically the exact same process. Any other costs do you have to reset chips with codes or something, Ron? No, not at all. That I know exactly what you're talking about, and that it still goes on with a few printers. But to be honest with you, because they're using older technology, and it was sort of an older way to get around things that let's say you're using an Epson print head, and then it thinks that the cartridges are empty. Well, then you have to put in a chip, and you have to buy chips, and our printer just has an automated system that you don't even really notice it. It takes about 20 seconds, and it resets everything, and you don't even notice it. So realistically, when you're looking at our printer, it's just wear and tear. You've got dampers, which are basically filters, which over time you're going to need to replace them. A wiper blade, which isn't very much money at all. So it's very, very minimum, and it's kind of going to what I was talking about, to where we're not designing parts into the printer which have a designated lifespan, to where okay, we're going to put this fan in here which really does nothing, and then put a filter in front of it, so then we can charge you $25 a month, so you got to put this new filter in there. It's just parts like that are not needed, and we don't have, because that's not the way that our we set up how our how to bring in money. Let's see here. We got some more questions. The Rico versus FreeJet. Once again, so that's a Rico. It's basically the Anajet through many revisions. I know quite a bit about that printer. Price wise, it's just it's a fast, decently. It depends on which one you get. The more expensive one is going to print at a decent speed, so you're going to have a better production. But the other one's a lot slower. It's still relatively. I don't know. I don't want to really say anything that I'm just saying what I see. It still kind of has issues every now and then, but so do a lot of printers. But it's still in that more expensive price realm where they're not as expensive as Brother or as Epson as far as their ink, but they are up there. So your cost per print, your operations, once again, that printer doesn't have a way to really protect the print head. So this is probably the biggest point. It doesn't, where we have wet capping. So when you're not printing, the print head is soaking in the solution. That printer has to push ink through the print head to keep the nozzles from drying up. So every certain amount of hours, it pushes ink through the print head, and that just goes in the waste ink bottle. So it has to do that to keep the head flowing. So no matter what, if you're not even using the printer's on, and it's going to, every so many hours, it's going to push ink and push it through the head and into the waste ink bottle. And actually, too, you have a lot less downtime with that kind of system. So, you just have to be more on top of it. So it's going to require more maintenance. It's going to be more expensive to operate. It's an easy machine to use, but it's just, once again, it's one of those variables. So those are the kind of things that I just want you guys to start thinking about and add on top of what's the cost of the printer, what's the cost of the print, and really start expanding the questions that you're asking, so you understand what you're getting into. And I want to make sure, and especially for us, that when you're buying a printer, you know what's involved and you're ready to go and you're going to be successful. The worst thing in the world is to get a printer, be excited, and you get into it, and then you're sort of a few months down the road, you seem to be doing pretty good, but for some reason that's not, your bank account isn't really showing too much. So that's the important part, right? We're doing this to make money, so we need to understand where we're losing money. Let me double check any questions here. No, I think. Okay, so about the design software that comes with the printer. So we have our own, essentially we have our own software that we work directly with a company. It's powered by Kasari, and our direct print, our software, basically for the last 2 years in a row, we've won the SPSI Product of the Year for Best Print. So our software, what we do is we spend hours and hours and hours profiling things and working on things to set them up for you. So when you use the software, you essentially bring in your graphic, you say where you want it to be on the shirt and how big, and then you say it's going on to a black shirt or it's going on to a white shirt. And that's about it. Because once you tell it what kind of shirt you're printing on, everything's preset and you get the best print right out of the box. And there's no sliding, printing and going, oh, the red's not good enough, I need to move up this slider. Oh, I need to move that slider. So if I'm going to say anything about the Rico, that software, like you press print and what comes out, who knows? And then you've got to sort of push dials around and move sliders back and forth. And, you don't need to be spending time dialing in a print. Like it's even said in, training, I'll do some test prints before you start. Well, what if somebody wants one t-shirt, you spend like 4 hours dialing in the color? No, it should come out of the printer naturally looking good. And that's what we're about. So our software, it will tell you how long it took to print it. You can run it before you print it just to see what your ink cost is going to be so you can price it properly. So, we really pretty much have the best software out there. And our awards so far are definitely helping us make that claim. So great software. Good question, too. Let's see. Arthur's asking if the ink for Poly available for the TX yet, or just the Plus. Right now, it's for the Plus. Let me see if I can get you a more better answer on that. As far as I'm not really involved in that side of it, but I will get you. I'll get you an answer on that, Arthur. For you guys too, if you have any questions. If you would like to contact me, if you have any questions for Craig, my email is P for Paul Green at OmniPrint Online. And let's see here really quickly. Craig's email is Craig at ParamountFinancial.com. And let me unmute Craig really quickly here, see if he has. So anyways, sorry about that. So even with Craig, if you have any answers about financing, feel free to contact me on that. But I'd like to thank all of you guys for joining me today. Hopefully you got something out of this. The Section 179 return is something that some people don't know about, so that's a huge tax break for you guys. And now's really the good time to do it if you're looking at a printer. Not to kind of push you guys, but it's definitely a really good incentive to get that done before January 1st. So once again, thanks a lot, guys. We're going to be coming out with a lot more webinars. And if you guys are certain topics you'd like to hear about, please let me know. Shoot me an email. For you guys that had questions about pricing, I'll make sure that we have a sales guy get in touch with you and go over all that stuff. I'll definitely make sure somebody gets a hold of you. So once again, thank you guys so much for joining me here today. And thank you so much to Craig for joining us and giving us information on financing. I know that's something that a lot of people, you'd like to know about when you're getting into it. So hopefully I'll be seeing you guys all soon in another webinar, and have a good day.